Welcome to the Mission First People Always podcast. We're glad you're here. And now our host, Dr. Mike Patterson.
Today on this episode of the Mission First People Always podcast, we're talking about kindness and how it fits into the fast-paced, highly competitive, ever-changing world of business. And maybe some of you are already skeptical. Does or should kindness even be part of a conversation about organizational leadership? Because after all, isn't it all about accomplishing the mission first? I contend that the people in your organization need and deserve kindness, and that kindness actually creates value and drives mission accomplishment. One of my favorite quotes about kindness is from the great Maya Angelou, who was no stranger to hardship and harsh treatment, yet she said, "It takes courage to be kind." Today, I'm looking for some courageous leaders who are ready to go all in on kindness, or at least remain open and curious as my awesome guest, makes the case for kindness in the workplace. My guest today is Brittany Martin. Brittany is the founder and chief people advisor at Be Kind Works, a boutique consulting firm dedicated to transforming how organizations approach people development and leadership. She collaborates with business leaders to approach challenges with curiosity, compassion, and strategic insight. Brittany excels at identifying solutions, organizing frameworks, and facilitating learning to empower leaders at every level to grow and thrive. She's a proud graduate of Fairfield University. She's actively involved in the HR community in the New York metro area, the tri-state area, including her work with the organizing committee for Disrupt HR. That's kind of a provocative name for an organization, so I want to learn more about that in our conversation. She's a member of Troop HR. Brittany holds certifications from SHRM and is committed to providing positive organizational change and nurturing environments where kindness and strategic leadership lead to sustainable success. I can breathe. Brittany, it is just awesome to have you on the Mission First People Always podcast. Welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Mike. It is truly a pleasure to have this conversation with you, and I'm excited to be on the Mission First People Always podcast.
All right. Now, Brittany, you and I have worked together before. I met you when you were working for a very large organization. One of my clients, we got to know one another. You've since gone out to do your own thing. I'm excited to hear about how that's going and what you're doing and how you're bringing value to the world. You've also got a very cool way of thinking about kindness, and you've got a framework for that. So I'm excited to explore all this with you. But I want to go back to that quote from Maya Angelou. I'm a Maya Angelou fan, so I like to quote her whenever possible. Does it, in fact, take courage to be kind? And does it especially take courage to be kind in a very competitive, take no prisoners, we got to win workplace environment?
Yes, I love that quote. And I think that being kind is something that takes a lot of courage. To be kind, it means you need to be yourself, you need to be considerate, and you need to be compassionate for others. And that's not always easy to do. So when I talk about kindness, it's not a weakness. It's not being soft or meek. Kindness really means that you're showing up with the best interest for yourself, for others, and your community in mind, and you act in that manner.
So when one of your clients, when you kind of position yourself as I'm the person that can help bring kindness to your workplace, how do you define kindness in a way that gets senior executives to kind of lean in and say, yeah, I'm interested in more of that for my workplace?
So I like to meet people where they're at. I spent over 12 years as an HR business partner and navigated my career through corporate and realized that a lot of leaders and peoples in our organizations want to be kind. They want to have a path forward where they can be themselves, where they can do good by their people and their business. And as an HR business partner, that was what I always thought my job was to find the blend and be the bridge between the people and the business. People have jobs because of a business, and the business runs because of its people. And so I don't try to sell kindness, but I do use Be Kind Works as my name very intentionally, because if people are bought into the concept and curious to learn more, I'd love to engage with them and learn what kindness means to them, how it shows up in their workplace. And then through authentic conversations, we design all of our programs through understanding, curiosity, and customization, and not this one size fits all approach. But kindness is always somewhat of a guiding light for us and a bit of our mission as we have these conversations.
So do you contend that kindness actually drives business results? There's sort of maybe it's a generational thing from my generation or previous generations, that leaders are strong and decisive and they have the answers, and people should come to us to be guided in the direction they should go. That doesn't feel like a good fit with I'm kind, I'm caring, I'm considerate. Those things that you mentioned, um, do those two ideas clash, or have you found a way to make them come together and work together?
I believe they come together, just like I believe that people in business come together. And that's been validated in my experience working with lots of different teams in lots of different environments. I'm not saying that there aren't different ways to achieve results. I do believe that there are cutthroat, ruthless, very competitive businesses and leaders that are successful. But what are they defining success as? And is it sustainable? Are questions that I ask. What I'm trying to introduce into the conversation is that there can be another way, and kindness can enable us to bring out the best in others, which actually creates opportunities, generates innovation, and fosters wellness among our team, which makes our businesses so much more sustainable. So kindness can go hand in hand with leadership. It doesn't have to be one or the other. To be direct, you need to have direction. And that direction can come from being considerate of others and gathering the right information, which is kind. The way you deliver that message can be thoughtful of your audience and clear and concise so people get on board with your mission and your vision. So there are kind ways that you can implement a lot of these leadership things that you're talking about and be that really strong people leader and feel great about it at the same time.
I like what you said, because I believe this and I often talk about this in my work. One of the primary responsibilities of leaders is to bring out the best in the people around them and to influence others toward excellence. And I think that's what you're suggesting, um, a kind approach to leadership can do. And so I know you've developed a framework that you use to guide people to lead with kindness. And I think it's a really profound addition to our leadership, to our understanding of leadership. And I invite you to share your kind framework and how it works.
Yeah. So I came up with the kind framework when a client of mine asked for help in leading their team through change. And what I realized was that a lot of people may think that they're comfortable with change. A lot don't. Sometimes we over index our comfortability with that and our confidence with being able to do that. And when I thought about all of the research and in my experience, I realized that there can be a kind approach to leading through change. And in doing that, it means thinking and acknowledging that you're experiencing the change and you're leading others through change. So with the KIND framework, I break change down into 3 different categories. First is through knowledge. So having awareness and acknowledgement of your situation. Then when we think about it, there's insight. And insight is through reflection and gaining perspective. So that's your internal and being aware of others and how you interact and relate. And then you need navigation. So navigation will help you figure out focus and direction. It allows you to set boundaries of what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And then lastly, you need drive. So what's your personal motivation? How do you have that curiosity? And what's bias for action? Because to actually lead through change, you need to be action oriented. So the KIND framework simplifies for leaders knowledge, insight, navigation, and drive as your 4 components to lead. And then we have exercises and activities and different things that go along with each of these aspects to help you lead.
Brittany, by training and vocation, you're an HR professional. And the very nature of being an HR professional means you've seen a lot of stuff. You've seen good stuff, you've seen bad stuff. You're presently involved in a number of professional associations in the greater New York City area for the HR community. You're in the thick of the action when it comes
Yeah.
to the people side of the business. What are you seeing and hearing from your peers that make you convinced that this KIND framework is necessary, that a spirit of kindness is appropriate and helpful in our present environment? And how does this approach make a difference in the real world?
Everything that I do, I want to be practical. I'm driven by making sure that people have resources and things that will actually help them navigate through their challenges day to day. And being a leader comes with a lot of responsibility. And a lot of my conversations with HR peers and business leaders, they're looking for that confidence and clarity of direction and want to be able to empower their teams with some type of framework or some type of roadmap. So this is how you can do the different things that they're being tasked to do. And yet they also want the flexibility and ability to customize things and be real to what's happening in your everyday. So the way that the KIND framework is designed is to help define that path forward when it can feel really overwhelming.
Mm.
It makes it less daunting and allows you to not think as hard of what is the information I need to get. And then through the facilitation of the different trainings or programs that I do through Be Kind Works, we're able to have conversations and create space to acknowledge how do these things actually come up every day. What are the challenges that they're facing and how do they gain the insights that they need, or how do they stay resolute in the drive that they believe that they have? So it's a balance of having a framework and consistency, which a lot of leadership wants to provide for their teams, and also creating the space for their leaders to be who they are and navigate through what they're dealing with.
So what kind of success have you seen with this framework in real organizations? I would imagine that um, a lot of your time with clients is filled with discussion and just people trying to wrap their heads around what's happening. How does it all play out in your experience when you bring in the Be Kind framework to an organization? You start to roll it out. What does it look like?
It looks different every time, to be honest with you. It starts with curiosity and a conversation. So it comes typically to happen when an HR leader or a business leader is facing some type of business challenge, whether they're going through an organizational change, they have a whole bunch of new managers, and it's really exciting because they just promoted a bunch of people who were your subject matter experts and your individual contributors, and now they're managing people, but then things go awry because those amazing people don't know necessarily how to navigate through the people management side. And so for each of the people that I work with and the clients that I have a conversation with them to figure out what they think are the biggest pain points that they're experiencing right now. We acknowledge that and put it on the table. And then we also try to figure out, like, what do they wish they could do? What are things that they could envision if we had ideal circumstances? And if things were operating really well, what could it look like? And then what exists? What's in place? And what are the things that we're navigating with and dealing with? And from there, then we decide, okay, what do we need to address right now in the short term? What are the immediate controllables? What are the things then that we can start to influence through that? Who are the right people to bring into the conversation? And then we figure out the different strategies or programs that go into place.
So you begin with a solid needs assessment.
Yeah.
There's no one size fits all.
Mm-mm.
That needs assessment determines the approach. And it sounds like it's a very collaborative process with your
Yeah.
client. Does, does kindness become part of an organization's people strategy? If I'm a senior people leader, I'm a senior HR leader in an organization, can I incorporate a kind approach into my strategic view of my role?
You can. And I think that it really isn't something that I think should be a check the box activity. The way that I look at kindness is we're not going to have a kindness training. We're not going to go through and treat it as a one-off, but it's more how we do what we do. And through accountability, I think that that's a great way that organizations are able to incorporate kindness initiatives into their organizational strategy or through incentive structures. And when I think about that, I think about economic and social. So, how we treat one another, what our culture is like. And those are ways that we can design people-centric strategies without calling it out and making it oh, this is a line item in our strategic plan that maybe the HR function's responsible for. Because that's not what truly makes a kind organization. It needs to permeate how we do things day in and day out.
So it's both. It sounds like what you're saying is that it's both a mindset and a skill set that
Mhm.
is embedded in the culture of the organization.
Yeah, definitely.
Is is your kind approach disruptive to the status quo? And I'm prompted to ask this question because you play a prominent role in this organization called Disrupt HR. And I said I was curious about that because I think it's kind of a provocative
Yeah.
name for an organization. So maybe tell us a little bit about that organization. And then is your approach truly disruptive in organizations? Does it cause people to kind of spin around and say, "Oh, we're doing something in a different in a major way"? What's disruptive about what you do? And but first, what's disrupt HR?
So Disrupt HR is a global type of organization. It was founded in Ohio, and now we have global chapters of Disrupt HR. And I've been privileged to be a part of the organizing committee for New York City, Long Island, Westchester, and Southern Connecticut. So I work in partnership with other organizers, and we put on these events in a very unique format. So they're designed for HR practitioners and HR leaders to come together, connect, and then have really innovative, thought-provoking conversations. And the format of each of the presentations is that each speaker we bring in is someone with real-world experience, and they have 5 minutes with 20 different slides that are automatically advancing every 15 seconds to convey a point, to provoke an emotion, to bring some entertainment and levity, and talk about things that we need to be talking about for the future of the workforce. And so, in and of itself, the design of the presentations is disruptive. It has the audience lean in and engage, and you walk away with so many sparks of inspiration or reminders that are great perspectives and things that we might have lost sight of that we can take back to our workplace. And it's disruptive from the normal, typical conference or networking event that you've been a part of. So that's what Disrupt HR is.
So 15 seconds per slide, 20 slides. So every presentation's 5 minutes
Yep.
ish. I love that idea, and I wonder if our many of our organizations would benefit from that approach to presentations and meetings. It would probably reduce the death rate from slide whipping that some organizations are still guilty of. So I love that.
Yeah. And it's great. So the role I play with the committee is I'm a confidence coach for all of our speakers because we have these incredible practitioners that are HR leaders and experienced and have all these amazing ideas. So I get to work with them to help them feel confident in delivering presentations in this really unique format, which has been incredible for me to learn and get to know all of these people. And then to facilitate such an amazing experience for the audience. So it really is, I think, a great way to bring HR leaders together to build community and connection. And then, like you said, bring it back to your workplace with tangible things that you get in such a condensed period of time.
Yeah, I love that. So back to the kind approach. Is the kind approach disruptive?
So the idea is for it not to be disruptive where it's creating noise and draining energy from your organization. So it's not disruptive in that way. What it is disruptive in is it takes a lot of focus and commitment to really being invested in making change happen and developing leadership. Becoming a strong leader doesn't happen overnight. And I'm very committed, focused, and work very closely with the leaders of these organizations to make sure that we are fully present and that we are taking these things. And it's not just I'm going to go to this 1 hour training and walk away and forget what I learned, but it's disruptive in the way of we're going to follow through on these things. We're going to implement these strategies. We're going to have sometimes uncomfortable and difficult conversations during our session. We're going to really get to know ourselves and sit in the sticky stuff sometimes to have those reflections. And that's what can be disruptive, but that's what can also be transformational.
Brittany, you spend a lot of time and just, I want to make sure that the audience knows you're based in the New York City area. You work with clients all over. Probably the majority of your clients are in the Northeast. You work with a lot of organizations. You're getting new clients every week, basically, but you spend a lot of your time, I know, developing new leaders,
Yeah.
emerging leaders. That's a passion of yours. Why is this an important mandate for every organization, and why should it be a top priority for organizations to invest in emerging or new leaders? And I tell you, my experience in doing learning and development for a lot of years is that most of the money gets spent on the upper echelons of leadership, or at least the middle to upper echelons of leadership. Sometimes not so much spent on emerging leaders or high potential individual contributors moving into leadership. Why is your focus on leadership, and why would you contend that organizations need to focus there as well?
Yeah. So I'd love to start with defining what I think of as an emerging leader,
Okay.
because I think that new managers that are first time managers responsible for people can fall into this category. I also see emerging leaders as those that may be in manager roles, but are now starting to see themselves as empowered leaders, not just managing a task or a person, but leading and inspiring and helping others to grow. And then I also see emerging leaders as those peer leaders and the people that are influential and look to as role models and are really helping to shape and guide the future of where your organization can go. And when I think about the value of investing in those emerging leaders, which is something that I've personally done my entire career, one, it helps me to feel energized because I'm motivated by helping those people that want to be leaders and want to have that positive impact on others feel empowered to do so. And secondly, the more that you can develop those leaders that then develop other leaders, you can have exponential growth and have a tremendous impact at scale compared to really focusing it on a very narrow amount of leaders. So I'm all about empowering people and helping your whole organization grow. And emerging leaders come with a lot of great new ideas, a lot of strong energy. There's curiosity and passion and open mindedness because they're emerging. They want to become leaders. They want to inspire others and the future of where we're going. So to me, it makes a ton of sense to invest in that because that's where we're headed. And you can see short-term and long-term benefits from it.
Tell us a success story that you're proud of. Maybe it's a client you've worked with or something you've seen in your career where this approach, your ideas have been embraced by an organization. You've been able to influence leaders in the organization and good things have happened. Give us a success story that will inspire us.
Yeah, so I started my career working at Target right out of school. I was an HR leader in stores, and it was a rare opportunity that I was given to be responsible for leading and inspiring all of these people on my team. And I took that responsibility incredibly seriously. And I listened and I absorbed as much knowledge as I could. I learned my function. I learned how to be an HR leader. And in my second opportunity with the organization, I was put in a situation where the team was really struggling. There was really, really high turnover. It was almost, I think, in the 70%. Engagement was in the 40s, and things just weren't working. And so the first thing I did was I asked a lot of questions to everyone. And I realized that our employee base and all of those emerging leaders and people that have all this potential and care and investment in what we could be and what we could do as a team felt like they didn't have paths forward. And all of those senior leaders wanted to empower the team, but they didn't know how. And so I worked to be that bridge. And we found ways and we collaborated together. And in about 2 years, we promoted over 20 people into leadership roles. And watching those leaders grow their careers and succeed and start to develop other leaders and be responsible for the development of not only themselves, but for those around them was so motivating. And people were so encouraged to get on board that it became cultural. And we inverted those turnover and engagement numbers, which was so cool to watch. And I was like, look, these are the tangible results validating that if you do things mission first, people always, that it works. And we had the results and I ultimately moved on from there. But I still have relationships with a lot of these leaders from back then. And that was a decade ago. And now a lot of them are leading HR or in other functions or other industries and companies. And they're even bringing me in as a consultant and trainer for their organizations now. So it's become this truly exponential thing where these leaders are leading other people. And it's not just within their team, but it goes beyond their organization. It goes beyond their moment in time. And that to me is the thing that I think I'm most proud of and helps me to remember why I do what I do.
Yeah, that's often awesome to think about to look back with perspective and recognize people that you have impacted. And this is just getting started for you, Brittany. I've known you for a couple of years, and I just see the momentum and traction you're getting with your work. I endorse Brittany's work, and I encourage you to contact Brittany and better understand the work she does. All of her contact information is going to be in the show notes. Especially if you're in the Northeast, give her a call. She'd love to talk to you, have a conversation about what's going on in the organization. And these results that she's talking about actually can be monetized. When we treat people well, it drives our results and it's good for the bottom line. So I appreciate everything about what she's doing and what she said today. But before we go, and our time is drawing to a close, before we go, Brittany, I warned you about this, and my listeners all know what's coming. Is that as a final question in our conversation, I'm going to ask you to give our audience a simple, practical tip that they can begin applying right away to be a better leader, to be a better teammate, to bring out the best in the people around them, to be a person of greater influence, all the good stuff that you and I work to do every day. Give us one simple piece of advice.
So I would say be yourself, be considerate, and be compassionate. So when you're yourself, you feel your best and you can fuel that and bring that out in others. Being considerate of your impact on others and the business is really important to keep in mind. And then compassion helps you turn that into action. So those are the three things that I think of when I think about being kind, and being kind at work works.
Yeah. Thank you, Brittany, for being a great guest on the Mission First People Always podcast. I sometimes ask my clients and the audiences I speak to, what's it like to be on the other end of me? What's it like to be on the other end of you when you're at your best and when you're at less than your best? And if the answer is people experience me as being considerate and compassionate and authentic, that's probably a great starting point for a great relationship that ultimately will drive business results. To my audience, thank you for being a part of this conversation. We hope it added value to your day. Remember, reach out to Brittany if you want to learn more about her work and her kind framework. You're doing work with emerging leaders. You've got to get through a change. Brittany's very able to help you do that. So until we meet again, it's mission first, people always. Our job, friends, is to bring out the best in others in everything they do, we do. Be a better human. God bless. See you again soon.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want to create a stronger, more people-centric and empowered culture for your organization, visit drmikepatterson.com.